In the annals of Native American history, the stories of warriors are often dominated by male figures, great chiefs and fearless braves who led their people into battle. Yet, hidden in the shadows of these well-known tales are the untold stories of remarkable Native American warrior women, whose bravery and strength were just as vital in the struggles of their people during the 19th century. These women were leaders, strategists, and fierce defenders of their tribes, fighting not only for survival, but also for their culture, their families, and their lands. Unlike the romanticized figures of Pocahontas or Sacagawea, who are often remembered through the lens of European settlers, the real warrior women of Native America were a force to be reckoned with. They were not simply wives, daughters, or guides, but fierce warriors in their own right. These women fought side by side with men in wars, resisted colonization, and led their people through some of the darkest periods in history. One of the most notable figures is Buffalo Calf Road Woman of the Northern Cheyenne, a woman who played a pivotal role in the Battle of the Rosebud in 1876. The battle was one of many in a long series of conflicts between native tribes and the United States Army, which sought to push the indigenous people off their lands. In this intense conflict, Buffalo Calf Road Woman rode in a battle to save her brother. Chief comes in sight, who had fallen from his horse. In the heat of battle, she charged through the gunfire, grabbed her brother, and pulled him to safety, all while facing the full force of the U.S. Army. Her bravery turned the tide of the battle, inspiring her people to fight harder and eventually forcing the Army to retreat. Buffalo Calf Road Woman's story did not end there. She later fought in the Battle of the Little Bighorn, the infamous conflict where General George Custer and his men met their demise. She was one of the few women who took part in the battle, and many believe it was her actions that contributed to the victory of the combined Lakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho forces. Her legacy as a warrior woman lives on, though her name is often lost in the male-dominated retelling of history. Another fierce woman warrior was Lozin, a Chiricahua Apache who fought alongside her brother, the great warrior and leader Victorio. Lozin was said to possess spiritual powers that allowed her to sense the movements of the enemy, making her an invaluable asset in battle. According to legend, when Lozin held her hands out, she could feel the direction of approaching soldiers, giving her people a tactical advantage. Lozin's skill as a warrior was matched only by her determination and leadership. When Victorio and his band were surrounded by U.S. forces in the mountains of New Mexico, Lozin fought alongside her brother in a desperate battle for survival. Even after her brother's death, she continued to fight, joining the great Apache leader Geronimo in his final stand against the United States. Lozin was not just a warrior. She was a symbol of resistance and strength, a woman who refused to surrender even in the face of overwhelming odds. Then there is the story of Pine Leaf, a Crow warrior woman who was adopted by the tribe after her family was killed by the Blackfeet. Pine Leaf grew up determined to become a warrior and vowed to kill 100 of her enemies before she would marry. She trained in the ways of war, mastering weapons and strategy, and eventually became a respected leader of the Crow. Pine Leaf fought in numerous battles and was known for her fearlessness and tactical brilliance. Her reputation as a warrior was so great that she became the subject of numerous legends and stories, though many of these were distorted or exaggerated by European writers. Pine Leaf's story, like that of Buffalo Calf Road Woman and Lozin, challenges the traditional narratives that often exclude Native American women from the warrior class. These women were not exceptions to the rule. They were part of a long tradition of female warriors who defended their tribes with the same skill and courage as their male counterparts. Yet, their stories have been largely forgotten, overshadowed by the focus on male warriors in both Native and European accounts of history. One of the reasons for this erasure is that the European historians who documented the battles and events of the 19th century did not see women as warriors. To them, war was a male pursuit, and the idea of women fighting alongside men was almost unthinkable. As a result, many of the stories of Native American warrior women were either ignored or downplayed in historical accounts. Even when women like Buffalo Calf, Road Woman, or Lozin were mentioned, Their contributions were often framed in terms of their relationships to male warriors rather than as warriors in their own right. However, within Native American cultures, women often held positions of power and influence that were not always recognized by outsiders. Many tribes had matrilineal systems, where lineage and inheritance were passed through the mother's line. Women were often the keepers of the land and played central roles in decision-making processes. In some tribes, women could even become chiefs or spiritual leaders. Warrior women were not seen as anomalies, but as essential members of the community who took on the responsibilities of protecting their people when necessary. As colonization spread across the continent, the roles of Native American women shifted. The arrival of European settlers and the subsequent wars for land and resources forced many tribes into new roles and relationships. Women who had once been leaders and warriors found themselves pushed into more domestic roles as their communities struggled to survive. Yet, even in these difficult times, many women continued to fight for their people in whatever ways they could. Sarah Winnemucca, a northern Paiute woman, used her voice and her knowledge of English to fight for her people in the courts and on the stage. She traveled across the United States, giving lectures about the injustices faced by Native Americans and advocating for their rights. Though she did not fight on the battlefield, her courage and determination to stand up for her people made her a warrior in her own way. Her book, Life Among the Paiutes, Their Wrongs and Claims, remains one of the most important works by a Native American woman and continues to inspire readers today. These stories of warrior women from the 19th century are a testament to the strength and resilience of Native American women. They were not passive victims of colonization, but active participants in the resistance. Whether fighting on the battlefield, leading their people, or advocating for their rights, these women played crucial roles in the survival of their tribes. As we continue to re-examine history, it is essential to recognize the contributions of Native American women. Their stories are not just footnotes in the larger narrative of Native American history. They are central to understanding the full scope of the struggles and triumphs of indigenous peoples. The warrior women of the 19th century were pioneers, in their own right, breaking barriers and challenging the gender norms of their time. Their courage, strength, and determination continue to inspire generations of Native Americans and remind us all of the power of women in the fight for justice and survival. In the chronicles of Native American warrior women, Buffalo Calf Road Woman stands as a shining example of courage and resolve. Her story is one of both personal bravery and deep cultural significance, a testament to the fierce spirit of the Northern Cheyenne people. Buffalo Calf Road Woman first entered the historical record during the Battle of the Rosebud in 1876. It was a time of great turmoil for Native American tribes as they resisted the relentless expansion of the United States into their ancestral lands. On June 17, 1876, the Cheyenne, along with their allies the Lakota Sioux, clashed with U.S. Army forces led by General George Crook. The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. Amidst the chaos and smoke of battle, Chief comes in sight. The brother of Buffalo Calf Road Woman was struck down. He lay wounded on the battlefield, exposed to enemy fire, and seemingly doomed to die. But Buffalo Calf Road Woman was not one to watch her brother fall without action. With fearless determination, she mounted her horse and charged onto the battlefield, dodging bullets and arrows. The soldiers looked on in disbelief as this lone woman galloped through the thick of the fight. She reached her brother, pulled him up on her horse, and raced back to safety, all while under heavy fire. Her bravery was nothing short of legendary, and it inspired the Cheyenne warriors to rally. Her single act of courage turned the tide of the battle, leading to a Cheyenne victory. The story of Buffalo Calf Road Woman's heroic rescue became etched in Cheyenne lore, a symbol of the strength and determination of their women. But Buffalo Calf Road Woman's story did not end there. Just a few short weeks later, in June of 1876, she found herself once again on the front lines, this time in the Battle of the Little Bighorn. The Cheyenne and their Lakota allies faced off against the 7th Cavalry Regiment of the United States Army, led by the infamous Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer. This battle would become one of the most iconic in Native American history, remembered for its ferocity and the overwhelming defeat of the U.S. forces. Buffalo Calf Road Woman fought alongside her husband, Black Coyote, and many others in the Cheyenne camp. According to Cheyenne oral history, it was she who struck the critical blow that knocked Custer off his horse. Some accounts suggest that as the battle raged, Buffalo Calf Road Woman struck Custer with a club, sending him crashing to the ground. Her action, though symbolic of the power of Native women, also sealed Custer's fate as the tide of the battle turned against him. The warriors overwhelmed Custer and his men, and none of the soldiers in his immediate command survived. The Battle of the Little Bighorn was a stunning victory for the Cheyenne and their allies, and Buffalo Calf Road Woman's role in that triumph cemented her legacy as one of the great warrior women of her time. In Cheyenne culture, Buffalo Calf Road Woman is remembered not just for her acts of physical bravery, but for the spirit of resistance she embodied. Her story has been passed down through generations, serving as a reminder that women, too, were central to the defense of their people, their land, and their way of life. Her deeds are often celebrated in songs, stories, and ceremonies that honor the warrior spirit of women who, like her, stood tall in the face of overwhelming odds. Buffalo Calf Road Woman was more than just a fighter. She represented a deep sense of duty to her family and her people, and her actions are a powerful example of the often overlooked roles that Native American women played in the resistance against U.S. expansion. Her bravery, her quick thinking, and her fierce loyalty to her people are the qualities that make her story not just one of interest, but one of inspiration. Her legacy lives on, a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Northern Cheyenne and the crucial roles that women played in the defense of their people during one of the most tumultuous periods in Native American history. Buffalo Calf Road Woman is a reminder that courage knows no gender, and that the battle for survival and justice was one fought by all members of the tribe, regardless of whether they were men or women. The life of Buffalo Calf Road Woman also offers a powerful counter-narrative to the typical portrayal of Native American women in history. Too often, these women have been depicted as passive, as guides or intermediaries between their people and the European settlers. But Buffalo Calf Road Woman's story challenges that narrative. She was not a passive participant in history. She was a warrior, a leader, and a symbol of resistance. Her actions helped to shape the course of events during a critical period in Native American history, and her story deserves to be remembered alongside the other great warriors of her time. In the broader context of Native American history, the story of Buffalo Calf Road Woman underscores the importance of recognizing the contributions of women. These women were not just supporting characters in the stories of their husbands, brothers, and fathers. They were central figures in their own right, with their own stories of bravery, leadership, and resilience. Buffalo Calf Road Woman's life is a testament to the strength of Native American women, and her legacy continues to inspire new generations. As we reflect on the role of women in history, it is essential to give due recognition to figures like Buffalo Calf Road Woman. She was a warrior, a hero, and an icon of her people. Her story is a powerful reminder that history is not just the story of great men, but of great women as well, women who fought for their people, their land, and their way of life. Buffalo Calf Road Woman's courage in the face of danger, her determination to protect her family, and her unwavering commitment to her people make her one of the most notable and important Native American warrior women of the 19th century.